Hello everyone. Today we are going to start with the second chapter of class 11 biology, that is the biological classification. And it is a lengthy chapter, so we will cover it in around 6 to 7 lectures. Now let's start with the basic introduction of classification. Now we already know that classification is the process of grouping different organisms into their categories on the basis of their relationships. There were different classification systems from the beginning given by different scientists, and we are going to study about all of these classification systems today. Now you will ask me, why are there numerous classification systems in the first place? And why are classification systems changing? See, it's really simple. With advancement in nature and new discoveries, we humans are upgrading our systems. Our knowledge is becoming vast and new systems are developing. Let's see it this way. Whenever new features in smartphones are launched, you tend to upgrade your phone as well. Similarly, with new discoveries, the classification systems are also getting upgraded. Therefore, a new system is nothing but new information through which we are making our understanding better. Now, the first ever person to think of classification system was a genius. And the first person to introduce or to try to classify organism was the genius Aristotle. It was long ago. And then modifications happened and we got so many more systems. As you can see, we had the first attempt, which was Aristotle. Then we got 2 kingdom, 3 kingdom, 4, 5, all the way till 6. Now the first that we are going to look at is the 2 kingdom classification by Carolus Linnaeus. After that, we got the 3 kingdom by Haeckel, the 4 kingdom classification by Copeland, the 5 kingdom classification by R.H. Whittaker, the 6 kingdom classification by Carl Woese. And this is all nothing but just better understanding of classification with every step. So in first attempt we got to know about some things. In second attempt we make it easier and better. Third we make it even better. Fourth upgraded even more. Fifth even more, and then there was sixth. And I'm sure in the future we are going to get a lot more as our understanding gets better. Now let's look at the classification system by Aristotle. The time he did his classification, he had no resources and not much information. So Aristotle had no resources and no information. So without both of these, he did the best he could when it came to classification. So at that time, he divided the organisms into plants and animals. Then he divided the plants into categories on the base of their habit. So he divided on the base of their habit. Now, please note, I'm not saying habitat. I'm saying habit. Habitat is different. I'm not talking about habitat here, I'm talking about habit. This means on the basis of their looks. So habit means on the basis of their looks and how they were actually looking. So the plants were divided into 3 categories, which are the herbs, shrubs and trees. Then he divided animals into 2 categories, which is the anima and inima. So what do we mean by both of these terms? So whenever in biology we use the word A as a prefix, it indicates absence. So A here indicates absence. And what is this absence of? This is the absence of RBCs, which is our red blood cells. And in inima, the red blood cells were present. So the RBCs are present. Okay, great. Now the important point is that Aristotle never gave the term kingdom in his classification. So Aristotle never used the word kingdom in his entire classification. So when he gave the entire classification, the word kingdom was never used. But the term kingdom was actually given by the next person, which is Carolus Linnaeus. Now the Carolus Linnaeus, who gave the 2 kingdom classification, he coined the term kingdom. And he gave them the term plantae to plants, the kingdom plantae, and for animals he gave the word animalia. So there were two kingdoms, kingdom animalia and kingdom plantae. Now he divided the organisms into two categories on the basis of 5 characteristics. As we know, the categories are plantae and animalia. But what were the characteristics? Those were cell wall, contractile system, locomotion, mode of nutrition, and response to external stimulus. So when we talk about cell wall, they were present in the plantae kingdom while they were absent in the kingdom animalia. With the contractile system, it was once again absent in plants while it was present in animals. Locomotion, once again, plants don't really move, and that's what he concluded at that point of time. So he said locomotion was once again absent in plants while it was present in animals. The mode of nutrition, as Carlos Linnaeus put, he said that the plants do not eat and at the same time animals eat. So as you can see that the classification he did was very basic and superficial at that point of time. And the last point we have here is that the response to external stimulus. With this we have that the animals respond very fast to external stimulus while all the plants respond very slowly to external stimulus if they do at any point of time. Now there were certain drawbacks to this one. Okay, what were the drawbacks of two kingdom classification? So it is very important for us to understand the drawbacks of the two kingdom classification. See, because once we know the drawbacks, that is how we actually improve in our next kingdom, right? When we got to know about what was missing in our earlier classification, that is how we improved for the next one. Now the first problem was that there was no differentiation between unicellular and multicellular organisms. The second problem was in the two kingdom classification there was no difference between autotrophs and heterotrophs, and there was no difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So these were the three major reasons and the three major drawbacks of the two kingdom classification. And because of these limitations, it led to the advancement of other classification system. Next we see is a three kingdom classification. So next we have here is a three kingdom classification by Haeckel. So he mentioned that there are organisms which cannot be considered plants or animals. So according to him, there were some organisms which did not fall in either of the category of plants or animals. Therefore, he mentioned that all the organisms that had the features of plant were included in kingdom plantae, and all the organisms that had the features of animals were put into kingdom animalia, and all the other creatures apart from these, all the other creatures, all the organisms that were left were put into the kingdom protista. Now therefore it can be concluded that protista was just a kind of a miscellaneous storehouse where all the other organisms are dumped. So what was kingdom protista? It was basically a miscellaneous storehouse. So all the organisms which could not fall in the category of animal or plants were just put in the kingdom protista. Now you may ask, what was the problem? Like, why would they not be considered as plants or animals? Now see, the process of evolution is really difficult. They were organisms that have the characteristics of both plants and animals. So it was very difficult to classify them into one. So they were considered as protists by Haeckel. For instance, let's take the example of euglena. It resembles both the higher plants and the lower animals. So it was really difficult to place it in a kingdom plantae or animalia. So it was placed under the kingdom protista. So as you can see that the euglena was placed under the kingdom protista because it had properties of both higher plants and lower animals. Now next came the four kingdom classification, and this was given by Copeland. The four kingdom classification was given by Copeland. It was given by Copeland because after seeing the kingdom protista in Haeckel's system, he thought that there was a large group of organisms that could have been differentiated from protista. And what was that? So he made another kingdom called Monera. Hence Copeland made a new kingdom, Monera, in which he placed the unicellular. So here he placed the unicellular prokaryotic unicellular prokaryotic organisms. So what was basically Monera? It was a storehouse for unicellular prokaryotic organisms. But let me point it out. The term Monera, so the term Monera was actually never given by Copeland. He gave the kingdom name. So what actually Copeland gave? Copeland gave the name Mycota. So he gave the name Mycota, but afterwards it was changed to Monera because Monera means, so Monera as a word means uni, which is also can be termed as singular. So it was changed from Mycota to Monera. So now let's look at the questions. So you have our question number 1 here. It says dash represents the group of animals without red blood cells in Aristotle's classification. So you have to point out the group of animals without red blood cells in Aristotle's classification. Okay, great. So as you have already read that whenever in biology we use the prefix A, the alphabet A, we are talking about the absence of something. So here from our options we have option number C, anima, which basically means without RBCs, it means without the red blood cells. So here our answer would be option C, anima, it means without RBCs. And if you look at the other options, for example option number A which says inima, it means with red blood cells, and both of them were given in the Aristotle's classification. Let's look at question number 2. Kingdom Protista was created by. Okay, so now we have to find out who gave the term Protista, who founded the kingdom Protista. So here from the options, first we have Linnaeus, as we know that Linnaeus created the two kingdom classification. So he gave the terms Animalia, which was basically a kingdom from animals, and another one was Plantae, which was a kingdom for plants. So as we already know that in the Linnaeus classification there were only two kingdoms, Animalia and Plantae, so he couldn't have created Protista. After that came Haeckel. So he gave the three kingdom classification. So he used the two kingdoms which were already given by Linnaeus, which were Animalia for animals, Plantae for plants, and he gave a new kingdom where he could put all the other organisms which he couldn't classify as animals or plants. So that kingdom was Protista. So the answer to this question, that who created or kingdom Protista was created by, the answer is option B, Haeckel. Now with this we have come to the end of our first video, and I'm sure all of you understood very properly the kingdom classification, the first attempt, the two kingdom classification, the third and the fourth. In the next video we are going to look at the 5th and the 6th kingdom classification. Till then, have a happy learning with EduRev.